I think he's going to intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Soutter, and with me, as always, is Ansgar Odinson. Ansgar, the swine Odinson.
The swine.
I promised I'd hit you with that one. No, that was your call for the swine flu. That was yours. That's
right.
all.
Because
that's
I got
on
swine
you.
flu a couple years ago. See what I have to deal with. This fat shaming bastard. I'm gonna have to kill him. I mean,
Jesus.
I'm going to have to.
Okay, well, listen, that's only about the third or fourth death threat I've had in the last 7 hours alone.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, it's been a long 48 hours. It's been a long 24. Oh my God! Welcome and thank you all for joining us to this DNC clusterfuck edition. I think that goes.
I
that's
almost would
with.
have actually named the show that. I was really tempted. I was like,
I'm glad
maybe
you did.
we should.
I think saying it is enough. Oh my God. Oh dear Lord. Okay, so a lot of people are asking what's going on, and it's the end of democracy as we know it. Apparently, we're going to cover a little bit about what caucuses are, why this is important the way it happened, and just how bad this is. And it really depends on how conspiratorial you are. This is going to get crazy.
It is. This is definitely Fox News fuel.
You are now basically tuned into Fox News, or just even in this worse. We're going to get Alex Jones on people. I think a little bit. Nobody's going to believe this.
Even MSN is being conspiratorial on this one, and they're Yeah, like you would not expect them to be conspiratorial against the Dems, but even they have to admit, no, this is
Oh,
shady. Yeah,
all right.
this is.
Let's start with the
Ooh,
stuff that's grounded in reality first.
all right.
So the caucuses are interesting. I found caucuses fascinating, and they're very important for the following reason. I was, as you know, on the Obama campaign. I was the
Mhm.
district coordinator for the second congressional district in Connecticut, and so I spent a lot of time traveling. As a result, I spent a lot of time in New Hampshire. I spent a lot of time sort of studying, figuring out how these work. And one of the interesting things was Obama before the Nevada caucuses. Obama was, I think, in fourth, maybe even sixth, if I recall. He was far behind. I was working a church, and we had to book it with 200 people. We didn't have enough who wanted to come in and hear him. We didn't. This was right before Nevada. Not enough people wanted to come in and hear him. And so we were calling up our own supporters and saying, yeah, I know you work for the campaign, but we need you today. Instead of canvassing, your job is to sit there so it doesn't look like we have an empty pew. So he's actually talking to people, but half of them were going to be his supporters. We got a list. It was maybe 100 people who wanted to come, were on the list. I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. I hear he won Nevada, which nobody had expected. I think he won now. It's been a while. And all of a sudden, we had 2,000 who wanted to be on that list, who had called to call ahead and reserve a seat. That was crazy. And it was that changed him from a second-tier candidate to the front runner. And he wasn't actually quite the front runner just yet then, but that's what did it. It was the Nevada caucus that changed it and made him president of the United States. A couple of people are trying to reproduce that. Yang is trying to reproduce that. It's because of how caucuses work and that they're early. And what happens is you build momentum. So one of the things, so the way a caucus works, there's an old saying in caucuses, vote early and vote often. And
Mhm.
I say that I've actually had people come out and say, you're advocating for fraud. No, I'm talking caucuses. You vote more than once in a caucus. It's not fraud. You're supposed to. What they do is they all get together and they get into groups based on their candidate. And everybody tries to peel people off of each group. And they'll do whatever it takes. Sometimes, a lot of times it's arguing and yelling back and forth. Sometimes it's donuts. They'll just go up and say, hey, you like Yang? We got donuts at the Sanders group. Why don't you come join the Sanders? I mean, this is they will whatever cajoling, whatever it takes. And then they count up all the groups. Any group that's too small gets disbanded, and they go elsewhere. And they keep doing this until they do and then they do some voting, but they finally get their final vote, and then usually, depending on the districts, but usually the delegates are just awarded based on a percentage. So if you got 50% of the delegates in that, or sorry, 50% of the people there voted for your candidate, you'd get 50% of the delegates. What makes this interesting is this is a process. This is a difficult process. So when they poll, oftentimes they poll likely voters, or they poll people, who do you like? What they don't always poll, in fact, they rarely poll, is who's actually likely to bother going to the caucus, because it takes 2 or 3 hours. It's not just voting. You're sitting there hanging out with people. So that changes the dynamic quite significantly. And as smaller candidates get sucked away by this process, the really small, medium candidates can siphon them off and all of a sudden become huge candidates. And it's a dynamic that changes. Here's what
So
happened.
what is the
Oh, yes,
caucus
please.
exactly? How does that even work? Because I think this is a bizarre tradition in American politics that I think a lot of people that are in our audience that aren't from America might find a bit on the bizarre side.
Well, I mean, it's caucusing just means you're
Mhm.
aligning yourself with people. I mean, there are caucuses in the in Congress. So there's the National Black Caucus. There is now the Tea Party Caucus, which was started by Michelle Bachmann, and she declared herself the leader of, and all this other stuff. Bernie Sanders caucuses with the Democrats. He's an independent, but he caucuses with. He allies himself mostly with the Democrats. So the whole point of a caucus is, who are you going to ally with and sort of interact with and throw your support behind. And they changed a lot of the rules this year. Now, everybody remembers, and I assume the shenanigans, Ansgar, of the last election cycle with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah, there was. Let's just say that to say that he got fucked over would be putting it lightly. The DNC, the Democratic National Committee, they basically conspired to make sure that Hillary Clinton would be the our candidate for the election, um, against what many voters wanted, and that actually probably was one of the biggest factors. I mean, forget the Russian bots on Twitter or whatever. That was probably one of the single most disenfranchising moments for a lot of Democratic voters. If you don't have confidence in the people that you're voting for and the people that you are supporting, a lot of people are going to be turned off.
Yes, and that's I think one of the it was turning people off. So they denied. So for example, he was not available to get certain funding that Hillary was able to get. That they have a program called Vote Builder. Vote Builder tallies everybody and sort of where they are. It's how you cut turf if you're sending out people who are gonna canvass for you, and how you reach the community. It's a program called Vote Builder. They denied Bernie access to that program. You can't. I mean, I've used that program regularly. That's your bread and butter in a campaign. They denied him access to the Democratic Vote Builder library. All sorts of it just all this stuff cost him the election, probably cost the Dems the election. And they said, well, we've learned and we won't do it again. Now they're doing it again.
A lot of people have also alleged that they changed that year. They changed the which states vote when. They actually changed the what would you call it, I guess, the voting order, and a lot of people allege that they did so on purpose to make sure that Hillary Clinton had a lot of momentum going in, because you're in a state where everybody, it's basically looking like a sure thing for one candidate. You're more likely to get voters who would be Bernie voters not showing up.
Well, yeah. So they won't show up. B, if you're on the fence already, everybody likes a winner. So if you're kind of on the fence, maybe a little Bernie, but Hillary's got the momentum, she's starting to take the lead. You're going to say, you know what, I kind of like her anyway. I like her enough, and boom. So the momentum counts for a lot. We're going to talk about momentum in a minute, because that's what's happening here is a manipulation. It looks like it's a manipulation of the momentum, which is crucial. But yeah, you're correct too. They set up the voting in such a way that Hillary heavy states would get priority, so she would build up a heavy tally first, and then it would look insurmountable to Bernie. And that's happened before. Also, if you're watching an election during like a national election for president, oftentimes you'll see the Democrats just start to rack up huge numbers first. Well, the reason is because those states are counted first. They are on the East Coast, tend to be more liberal. They get in the numbers first, and then you'll see the Republicans catch up as the Midwest gets tallied. So it's very hard to tell what's really happening by the early numbers, but people try to anyway, and it sways things. So, and yes, Tony Designs is in fact correct. That was definitely our bad. We normally try to drop it in breaking news on the folder. There's been a tremendous amount going on. We do apologize on our Discord. And if you want to come join us on our Discord, we can be discussing this later. We're also going to be doing, and I forgot to mention, I think maybe I mentioned, there's been a number of things happening with non sequitur too. There's been some interesting developments. We're going to be covering that at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. We're going to cover some of the changes, rather unexpected changes on the non sequitur. That's the story that won't die. We're saying they're going like, can we just leave it alone? But since we've committed to covering it now, it's this leash around we're just like, no, let it go. But so we'll be covering that tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. So here's what happened. It started with a poll the day before the Iowa caucuses. There was a poll, and this poll was going to show some significant changes in trends among the Democratic Party. One of them was that Buttigieg was trending downwards and was falling and had lost at least one, maybe two places in the candidate order. So that's a problem, because if you get those numbers going into a caucus, and again, in a caucus, things are very different. You have this kind of cajoling. And they changed this year, the caucus rules. If they changed the threshold, they raised it to 15%. If you don't get 15% on the first round of caucusing, boom, your candidate's out. That
Wow.
that was seen as that was seen as a move to eliminate the lower end and even many of the middle end candidates, including Buttigieg, Yang, anybody but really the top four are now going to be removed because the caucus bar was raised to 15%. You have to clear that. The other thing they did was they said once you've selected a candidate to caucus with, you can't change. You can't go to somebody else. You can only change if your group is disbanded because it didn't meet the qualifying. Then you go pick someone else. This is unprecedented. And only the Democrats have made this change. And again, it appears to be such that it would prohibit candidates who have more charismatic and more engaging followers and more energetic followers from being able to project that energy during the caucus, which is a crucial tactic during caucusing. This has been completely removed. This is one of the fundamental parts of a caucus, is trying to get people from the other side to join you, and just the active engagement.
Right.
They killed all of that. At this point, it's almost a vote, except it's a vote that takes 4 hours. So,
yeah, I mean, isn't the whole point? I mean, really, the caucusing, at least the way we do it here, in the United States, for the longest time, has been this kind of like, it's almost it's it's almost like you're sitting there, you're wheeling and dealing, and you're going back and forth, and oh well, I'll
yep.
give you. I mean, I think there really literally was one time when somebody said donuts, we have donuts, to try and get people over to their side. I think something similar actually happened at a caucus. So yeah, it very much has always been sort of a negotiation, and it's actually a rather fascinating process that I'm just barely sort of starting to find out about. It actually seems almost archaic and absurd. You know what I mean? When you really start to think about it, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting, you know.
There are people who absolutely love it. I find it interesting. I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to do it. It takes too much time and it's too much of a bother, which is again why it changes. That's why the numbers don't, in a caucus, the people
Mhm.
who are most favored are the ones who have the most energized supporters, usually the younger vote that is willing to go out and do this. The ones who have the older supporters are heavily at a disadvantage during a caucus. So
Mhm.
it's a very different kind of thing. And again, vote early, vote often. That's because you can change your vote. You can change and go with a different person anytime you want to, or stay with the same person, just vote and vote and vote and vote every time they go and tally the numbers. So this poll that showed Buttigieg falling significantly showed a number of other things, but the one I want to focus on is Buttigieg. His numbers were falling. This poll was quashed by the DNC. Why? They say that there was a single complaint, one complaint by one person saying that there was inaccurate information and that Buttigieg himself had not been properly represented in one of the questions. This was one complaint
Mhm.
that I'm aware of, that I've heard about, that was levied against the poll. Complaints are levied against polls. It
And
was
it
taken
wasn't
down.
right, and it wasn't even confirmed or anything like that. It just, the complaint came in, they took it down.
So here's the issue. Again, given how caucuses work, the momentum going into the caucus is critical. If this said that a candidate had been propelled to the top, like Bernie, Warren maybe had lost a little, and Buttigieg had lost a lot, if it says something like that going in, that has an effect on the morale of the people who are going. It even also causes people to say, I'm not going to bother showing up. My candidates drop below 6, and especially with that new 15% rule, I go
Mhm.
just to be eliminated in the first round. I'm not going to bother. This got quashed. Okay, that's
Mhm.
the caucus starts, and a whole number of really interesting things happen. One of them is that they start having problems. There is a program that is designed to send the results to the DNC for tabulation and get all that taken care of. The program starts to fail. It starts to fail universally. Nobody has figured out why yet. They seem
Well,
reasonably sure it's
it's
not
not even a
hacking.
program. It's an app. It's literally a phone app.
It is a phone app on your
They
phone.
decided
Now,
to run democracy via a phone app. I want to make that very, very clear. It's no longer everybody get together and maybe write something down or talk or no. Everybody get out your iPhones, get out your tablets.
But here's the interesting thing. They said that the failure was too much bandwidth being used and it overloading the system. But the results are only put in by one person per precinct. It's not everybody going in and saying these are the results and everybody type. It's one. So why is there a problem? Nobody understands this. Now, I don't want to get conspiratorial, and I'm okay. This is where we start to get way off the rails. This is going to go a little crazy. Do you know the name of the company that created the app?
Yeah, it's a company working for the government called Shadow.
Yes, that is the name of Shadow Inc. They work for the company and have been blasted as being one of the least transparent companies in the United States. Nobody knows who's running it, how, why. Nobody knows virtually anything about it. They who built it. What they do know a few things. Yes.
Yes, it is an arm though of a non-profit organization.
Well, let's get to that in a second. Let's finish with Shadow. Let's finish with Shadow before we really go through the looking glass. So, Shadow. Now, I think so Shadow was originally was Shadow the one that yes, Shadow was the one that was actually started from former Hillary campaign managers who created Shadow to help because that's
you couldn't create a more perfect storm for Alex Jones if you tried.
Jesus Christ! Oh, and this is going to get worse. So they are ostensibly there to support Democratic candidates, but one of the interesting things is that they have been paid a considerable amount of money by the Buttigieg campaign. Now, a few of the other campaigns have paid for certain services from Shadow. Nobody's entirely sure what. Shadow at this point has come out and said in most cases it was retweeting texts and so on and so forth. But the vast majority of the work that they seem to be doing appears to be for the Buttigieg campaign. And in fact, they have received a significant amount of contracting money from the Buttigieg campaign. They were recently purchased by another company.
Ooh, yes, this is a non-profit called Acronym, and their name is an acronym.
Their name is an acronym, so it is properly spelled all caps because it is an acronym. Nobody knows for what, but it's an acronym. And it's called
really
Acronym.
Yeah, which is interesting is not only is this a non-profit, but they already have shady things that a place like MSN has reported on already. For instance, they funded a for-profit local news organization that was merely there to be a to push political agendas. Basically, imagine a local Fox News for-profit organization that this nonprofit funded. They are basically a PAC. In fact, they are a PAC. And
they are. They're a political action committee, so they donate to various causes and are empowered also to donate to members of Congress, which is, in my view, bribery. I don't think that should be allowed, but yeah, that's what they do.
Agreed. Now, the CEO and the founder of Acronym, Tara McGowan, not only is her husband a strategist on the Buttigieg campaign.
So her husband works for the Buttigieg campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, she is a Buttigieg supporter. She's been very loud and publicly a supporter. Where was it? He's got that. Yes. So yeah, that's yeah. I mean, really soak that in. They're working for they.
So a secret organization called Acronym has purchased a secret organization called Shadow, which completely screwed up. Now here's why it starts to get important, and this is where it all snowballs. But before we do that, I teach writing, one of the things that you always say, and this was an old quote from Mark Twain, the difference between fiction and nonfiction is that fiction has to make sense. It has to be believable. If I wrote this, people would sit there and say, "You're making this shit up." This is bad writing. You would believe it's like having a thief who steals a whole bunch of money from corporations and who creates a huge pyramid scheme, and we're going to call him Madoff.
Right.
He stole people's money and he's Madoff. Bernie Madoff. You can't make this shit up. So, okay, moving forward, I'm okay. I'm okay. Serenity
yeah, I
now.
mean, this is more on the nose than Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure they're going to be the ones who purchase Acronym.
I'm sure.
Okay, so Acronym CEO is a supporter of the Buttigieg campaign. Her husband is an advisor for. I don't remember if he's president or former. I believe he's currently still an advisor for that campaign. They purchased
a strategist. Yes.
A strategist for the Buttigieg campaign. They purchased this app, which for some reason nobody's been able to identify, failed to process the results. Now, here's what you've got. You've got a huge number of, because going into Super Tuesday, the question is, what's the momentum and how has it built? Now, just after this, Buttigieg declared victory. There is absolutely no grounds for him to say that he won the Iowa caucuses. He tweeted out that he has won the Iowa caucuses and he's moving forward. Now, if he can build momentum as if he won those caucuses and go forward and into Super Tuesday, everyone should vote for me, go into, he's now got that momentum and is essentially trying to reproduce what happened with Obama, because that is how Obama moved forward, was the momentum built from the Nevada caucus. Nobody knows who won. Nobody knows what the numbers are. They've been delayed. We've been told we're going to get them. I believe we're going to get them accurately, but my suspicion is he's going to be reasonably low. But everything that could lower his numbers has been stopped somewhere along the line, including that original, the original, I'm sorry, what is it? They did the survey, not the survey, but the
original
polling
poll.
data.
The original poll.
The original,
and whatever came from this app. Yeah.
So that original poll looks like it was going to damage him. It didn't get out. Then all the apps that would determine whether or not he did well and even viable going into Super, all those stopped. And now nobody knows as we go into the rest of the voting. So that's really interesting. Now, I will say this. There's conspiracies. And I've said this before. I actually believe that there was a conspiracy to assassinate JFK. I think most people actually believe that in one way or another. But I did a lot of work on that for a while. I wanted a book series that was going to be sort of a science fiction thing that sort of did the, I haven't gotten around to it, but I studied it in depth for about 6 months, and I figured out 5 people who would have to know and be involved in order to pull it off. No more than 5, no more. And anyone says, well, gee, for this conspiracy to work, you'd have to have the people or 100. No, you don't, because what happens is it just takes people who unwittingly are complicit, but for other reasons. An example would be Chief Justice Earl Warren, who people would say, well, why would he go along with the conspiracy? Well, if he thought that it was done by the Soviets and not by the Americans, then he'd go along with it to stop World War III. In fact, there was a secretary who recorded a meeting between Lyndon Johnson and Chief Justice Earl Warren, in which Chief Lyndon Johnson said it was a conspiracy. Oswald didn't do it alone, but it was all the Soviets. And if you release that the Soviets murdered the president of the United States, it's World War III. So you have to let us use diplomacy, and you have to let us fix this. You cannot find that he didn't act alone. So they found he acted alone. Was he part of the conspiracy? No. But that's what he did to save the country. In this case, I'm not sure that there's a master puppeteer pulling all the strings, but a lot of coincidences from different people who maybe have been sitting there saying, we don't have to fix this problem just yet. The numbers are bad. I don't know. This is weird. Coincidences like this, I'm not saying, but this is why we're sitting here going out. shadow company. You can't name a company shadow company and not expect to be called into a conspiracy theory when things head fucking south.
Well, it could even be as easy as the first poll. Maybe it got squashed because people were worried. You know what? If there's any reporting of there might be something wrong, we don't want another Sanders incident, so we're gonna quash the poll. We'll re-poll or something like that. Then you go into this, and it's sure it's possible the app failed, or this CEO who obviously is very much pro Buttigieg may have seen, well, this might be an opportunity. Maybe the app just fails. You know what I mean? I
If
hate
she's
to
for
be so
Buttigieg,
conspiratorial, but
look, if she's for Buttigieg and she finds out that the app fails and she knows that this is going to hurt him, she's going to be disincentivized to treat it. She's not going to treat it the same way as if she thinks that, it would get it fixed right off the bat. And
right.
everybody's biased. Everybody's got and it's just, yeah.
It
So
doesn't have to
anyways,
be a premeditated thing. It could have just been opportunistic.
yeah, and I think that's that's sort of where I'm leaning. But if the amount that this has helped Buttigieg and that he has leveraged it into helping him
Oh, yes, he
is,
has.
oh yes, he has. So
And there's no
a lot
way
of people.
anyone can know who won the caucus. There is no possible way. But he's going, I won. Look, I won the caucus.
And I don't think he won. I'm sorry. I don't think he won. I don't think he placed third, quite frankly. Although anyone who was there is going to have some idea, at least, of what happened in the individual precincts they were in, because that is one of the things about a caucus is who's voting and how they're voting, because it's not you don't go into a booth and vote. You get a pretty good idea of where things are headed. Our caucuses are much easier to identify what's going on, and yet here nobody's got a clue. It's weird.
I actually, I'm not, not to let a certain friend of ours insert too much of his yang into our show, but Yang actually tweeted out
Yo, he
earlier.
gets his yang into every episode if he can. It's really annoying.
He really likes
Yeah.
putting his yang in time, but
Yes, he does.
Yang tweeted out. It was actually kind of cool. I don't know the exact tweet, but I'll paraphrase. But he basically said, first of all, there's no way we can know what the numbers are. Let's just be, patient and see what happens. And then he said, if only we had a something like maybe this shows why we need a president who understands tech. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Well, because here's the thing: a lot of our systems, a lot of our laws, a lot of our policies have not kept up with technology at all. At all. We have massive failings on that front, and this is just one of many.
Yep. All right. Well, so I think this pretty much covers. So what we have now is Buttigieg, a confluence of a number of circumstances that have helped Buttigieg significantly. I don't think, and we usually try to be the voices of reason, so I'm going to suggest that, we don't.
You be the voice of reason, I'll go conspiratorial.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
I don't see enough here to say that there was a conspiracy to do it, but it certainly has been very helpful, and it's very it's worth knowing about. It's worth looking into. I think I'm thrilled that we were able to sort of put some of this together and say, hey, wait a minute, which is why we decided we wanted to go live with it. But the entire process, it's been almost 24 hours, and they still don't have the results yet, which is unprecedented for this kind of thing. And nobody knows what the problem is. It's not hacking. It can't be a bandwidth issue. Yeah, I want to hear what.
No,
yeah.
Here's something funny. So, one of the big hashtags and things like that have been going out about Pete Buttigieg is saying that he's trying to rat fuck the election. That's like the thing that's going out. What's so funny is Google Trends. If you look over rat fucking as a the spike goes from like basically flatlined up to over 100,000 searches per hour. I mean, it's so this may end up actually doing more damage to Buttigieg than it helps. So yes, there is the potential, like you're talking about, the momentum is very important. But if there's enough people pissed off, you know what I mean, because of how, I'm sorry, the optics on this are horrible. The optics are just about
Jesus,
as bad as you can get. So it may end up actually screwing them over in the long run, or to coin the internet's term, rat fucking him in the long run.
Well, I think yeah, I think it's worth keeping an eye on. If something new develops with this, I think we'll certainly mention it. At a minimum, what happened yesterday is reasonably unprecedented. It looks like, once again, they are at a minimum, the DNC is once again screwing with the elections. They are deliberately trying to take out candidates they don't like. We covered already the Yang media blackout, which, I'm sorry, that's not an accident. That's not an accident. Look for coverage of that. That was a deliberate attempt by left-leaning media organizations to remove Yang.
Exactly, that is what makes this whole thing, the conspiracies around it, seem so much more plausible.
Yeah, and they're raising the bar of the 15. Yeah, you have to have a bar. But you have to have a bar at which point you're eliminating candidates, because you only have so many delegates. You can't split delegates in half, and you got to be reasonable about it. But 15 is unusually high, and it certainly appears designed to eliminate the middle and bottom tier candidates. And it seems like there is once again, just as 4 years ago, just as what cost them the election 4 years ago, a unprecedented attempt to eliminate middle or lower tier candidates who might be viable under certain circumstances, and they're not being given the opportunity. So it's unfortunate they didn't learn from last time.
I can guarantee you, Trump plays this big time.
Oh yeah. Well, and you're right. This plays well on Fox News. Shadow Company has taken really
from the mysterious acronym organization.
Yeah. Their name is acronym, and who on earth thinks that's a good idea? Okay,
so
yeah.
Ask so far, by the way, what's the DNC? Can you describe what the DNC is, who they are, what they do?
The Democratic National Committee. They all right. We are a two-party country as of this moment. I actually would vote for Trump if it would create a third party. There was a point at which it looked like it would create a third party. I would vote for probably just about any candidate if it would create a third party. And it looked at one point like a Trump vote might do that. But you can't have two parties. You get what we got now, which is, okay, if you're if you're homosexual, you don't have a lot of options, and the Democrats know this, so they don't necessarily pay attention to, because, like, what are you going to do? Go with the Republicans? I mean, come on, give me a break. So we need a third party for any number of systems, but right now we have two parties. If anybody can really form a party, they can try to run as members of a party. It really means they're all going to vote together. But if any party gets once you get on the ballot as a party, you have that spot, and you can put any candidate you want to into that spot. Any party that gets more than 2% of the delegate counts, so it's not just the national vote. You actually have to get delegate counts in the electoral college. Anybody who gets 2% or higher automatically becomes a national party. We only have two national parties right now. You could get a third if any party gets the Green Party, any party, if they get 2%, they become a national party. What that means is, A, they don't have to get signatures to get a party on to get their name on the ballot. Whoever they want on the ballot, they will get on the ballot. They don't have to go through any of those hoops. They qualify for matching funds from the federal government, and they are a nationally recognized party, and they're on the ballot in all states automatically, no legwork. We only have two parties right now. So those two have a tremendous advantage. The DNC is one, the RNC is the other, the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee. I forget what the actual name, not of the committee, but of Republican National. That may be the party name. I forget. But at any rate, the DNC tries to vote as a whole and to get all their candidates across all the states voted in one block. The RNC tries to do another one, and everybody, for the most part, is going to have to play with one of them because they already the way this country has national parties. Those are the only two games in town, unless someone can crack that 2% of the Electoral College, which if you win one state, you've got it done. Win any state, you've got it done. But a third party winning a state, yeah. So Ross Perot took a crack at it. A few people have taken a crack at it. Nobody's done it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'd vote for Trump if it would do it.
Gave a good. He came as close as anyone, and that was. He siphoned off a lot of conservative votes, Ross Perot.
He did, and nationally, he came, I think, 0.1% short of what he needed just in the national vote. But with the Electoral College, 0%. So got nowhere. He needed to get 3% on the electoral. But I think it's 3%. I may have said 2%. It's 3%, and he had gotten 2.5% nationally, but got 0 in the Electoral College. So it doesn't matter.
We're gonna have to do a show we can have on Electoral College so at some point.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing Landon. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Landon's name getting. I guess your hat is also being nominated.
My hat would make a fantastic president. I'm just saying.
That's good. Does my chair get to be VP?
I could swing that.
Oh, wow. That took a long time. Wow. Okay.
Maybe we should caucus it.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think that just about covers it. Like I said, we'll be doing another show. I think 8 p.m. tonight is the goal. We've got a lot of material to cover, but I hope you have found this informative. This was just, and quite frankly, a lot of people are starting to ask questions about what is Shadow Incorporated. I'd like to know. It sounds like Rainbow Six. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, an acronym. The acronym is distancing itself. They're like, oh, we only own Shadow. We don't know what they do. So that's essentially what they've.
And Shadow's trying to distance itself from acronym because the CEO being basically in bed with Buttigieg. So yeah, they're both going on. We don't even know that asshole. I don't.
Here we go. Yeah. New phone. Who dat? I don't. Oh God. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We hope that this has been as confusing to you as it was to us. I doubt we've provided any illumination in this episode. Normally we try to make things clearer, but if you've walked away from this thinking you understand the process any better, then you weren't paying attention to this episode. We will be on Discord for a little while afterwards, and would love to see you all out there. And Tony Designs has been dropping that link, so thank you, Tony. And we look forward to seeing you guys later tonight. So thank you all for joining us.
See ya.